The two-part system has exposed thousands of employers who have left workers with no pension funds and other benefits because they have not contributed to the pension fund. Now, some companies have been found to not have contributed to the pension fund as far back as 20 years ago. These companies were exposed when people were allowed to access a portion of their pension funds, but found there was nothing in the pot. Well, let's take this discussion further now on the two-part system and bring in Personal Finance Columnist Maya Fisher-French. Maya, thank you so much for your time and good afternoon to you. So, while many South Africans have benefited from this two-part system, withdrawals, there have been a number of red flags since its implementation last month. You know, as more people continue to withdraw, perhaps let's start with your insights and reflections on this process and what it has signaled for you, Maya.
I think it has actually been a very interesting exercise, human experience on many levels. One of them actually, as you mentioned, is I think a lot of people are now realizing that their details may not have been up to date with the pension fund, their contact details weren't correct, because a lot of, obviously, admin had to take place for people in order to make those withdrawals. And those are good things. That's really good that, you know, your pension fund knows where to find you and they've got your correct details. I think on one level, that's been quite a positive development. And then again, for these many people that suddenly discovered their pensions had not been paid, and you know, action can be taken now rather than they get to retirement. Can you imagine getting to retirement and discovering that there was no pension waiting for you? But I think I was having a look at some of the numbers that we received from SARS about the number of tax directives that have been applied for, and it's about just over 1.2 million people, not million people, tax directives, and that's very important. So 1.2 million tax directives, but of course, some people may be drawing more from more than one pension fund. They may have a company pension fund and a retirement annuity, for example. But that represents sort of less than 20% of retirement fund members. So those are sort of numbers we're looking at the moment. That sort of 21 billion rand will be paid out based on those numbers. But obviously, we're expecting more withdrawals to come you know, as time passes.
How concerning is it that, especially, you know, in the first few days, that many of those who withdrew from their funds were closer to retirement? Are we talking about 40 plus, 50 plus years here? Just a few years left, in fact, to retirement.
Well, we actually saw that most of the people who withdrew were, it did range depending on, you know, on ages, but also income levels. So we certainly saw lower income earners drawing on the money more than high income earners, which makes sense. Those are the people who are going to be under financial pressure. But of course, that is concerning that you're getting close to retirement. You probably don't have enough money for retirement, and you're accessing these funds. And we certainly saw a high level of distress in terms of accessing the money. I've been writing a lot about the Government Employee Pension Fund, which has not really started to pay out yet, and many members are very, very upset about it. And the overwhelming message I was getting from members was they need the money to pay debt. They have, you know, bills to pay, and they need the funds for that. And I think that, to me, is very concerning. It really revealed the state of households in South Africa in terms of their levels of indebtedness.
Let's talk about those that did withdraw. I mean, given that there is concern that those who chose to withdraw larger amounts now find themselves on a higher tax bracket. We know, of course, that that amount was capped. I mean, how then do they balance paying more on tax while also trying to save enough for retirement?
Yeah, I think a lot of people were very shocked to discover that they were going to have to pay tax on this withdrawal. And I think a lot of people banked on the money and had kind of made plans with the money before they realized they were going to get substantially less after tax was paid. So that was certainly appeared to come as quite a shock to many people. And I think one of the concerns, of course, is that when you make a withdrawal like that, it's added to your taxable income. So for some people, they may actually find that it pushes them into another tax bracket. And that may come as a bit of a nasty shock when they do their tax return in February, because, you know, by then it will be better understood. I think part of when SARS does the calculation, one is not sure if they've got it 100% correct. Obviously, it'll be balanced out in the next tax returns as to whether there's any additional taxes to pay, and that may also come as another surprise. And then, of course, there were many people who owed SARS money. And SARS used this opportunity to get those back taxes from them.
Maya, of course, I want to go back to your earlier comment around those employers who were found wanting. I mean, some haven't paid contributions or made contributions to their employees dating back 20 years. You seemed rather optimistic that, they have enough time to recover before, retirement. I mean, how confident are you then? I mean, for those that are watching and are concerned that, when they inquired, they actually have zero balance when they thought that the employer was actually contributing. What do you have to say to them in terms of if they have, 10 to 15 years before retirement?
Well, I'm not necessarily optimistic they're going to get all their money back. I just think it's better to know now than discover at retirement. This has also galvanized, hopefully, the authorities to actually do something about it. And what's very important, actually, is in 2023, so last year, the FSCA issued a report on this, and they found more than 3,000 employers who were 4 months or more behind on payments. We're almost catching up on this information now, and people, I think, are only really understanding the consequences of that. And I think what was also interesting for me in those statistics was many municipalities, as we now know, were involved in that. And these are actual government, departments which is basically fraud. When you take money from someone's salary and you don't invest it, it's fraud. Yeah. And I think what's very concerning is that the bulk of them were also in the security industry, which is also very, very worrying. But this is a criminal offence, and this can go to court, and directors can actually be held personally liable.
And in fact, some municipalities in some provinces have also been taken to court. Thank you so much, Maya, for your time. Really do appreciate it. Personal finance columnist Maya Fisher-French.